Hi, my name's Allie Cain. I'm a freelance finance journalist and the host of the Buy That Business podcast. Each episode, we look at everything you need to know about buying and selling a business. Today, I'm joined by Anne Barritt from Fin Business Sales. Anne has defined a process almost all vendors use when they successfully sell a business, and she's generously agreed to share that process with us today. Welcome to the podcast, Anne.
Thank you, Ali. Lovely to be with you.
So, Anne, where should people start when it comes to selling a business?
Yes, Ali. So most business owners never think about selling their business until something happens. And that can be a change in family circumstances. It can be retirement. They may be under pressure from their partner to spend more time at home. It could be health-related issues, or sometimes they've just had enough. And at that stage, they really have no idea what's involved in selling their business. And they'll be a bit anxious and a bit stressed about that. Many reach out to their accountants and have a chat with them. They may call someone they know who's already sold a business to see, what they've done, or they do their own research online. And it's generally through this process that we first make contact with them. We'll have a chat, just an informal chat. We learn a little bit about their businesses, their expectations, timeframes, etc. And we'll let them know the steps it takes to get the answers to the three questions that are top of mind for most people. And that is, how much is my business worth? How do you go about selling it? And what budget will I need to get it sold? And that's really where it all starts.
So, Anne, what is a selling strategy?
So a selling strategy is really a roadmap or a playbook of taking a vendor from that initial chat right through to settlement and money in their bank, basically. Because there's a lot of moving parts selling a business. There's a lot of people involved. And you have to have a defined process to make sure you can get the job done properly. We have four main processes. And of course, each process has many, many different steps to it. First of all, there's preparing the business for sale. And you start that process right at the initial chat. And then we get into a deep dive or a SWOT analysis where we really learn about the business, so the strengths, the weaknesses, the opportunities, and the threats. We look at the financials, obviously. We analyze those, make sure we understand them, make sure they all make sense. And then we prepare a detailed information memorandum or business profile. And this is like the open for inspection for businesses, because every buyer can't go and have a look at the business. So this tells them everything they need to know. And we find that the more time we spend and the more detailed we are in this stage, the easier it is to actually sell the business. And we keep in mind all the different people who are going to be involved, accountants, banks, lawyers, and so forth in the process. And we make sure we've all the information that they need. And then once all that's ready, we've got everything ready, we think about the marketing of the business. And this is preparing advertising copy, creating email contact for our buyer database, and reaching out to investors who we think the business might suit. And then we get through to screening buyers and negotiating the sale. So we get a constant stream of buyers inquiring about the businesses we have listed. And it's really important for us to get to know those buyers, to understand what they're looking for, to understand their skill sets, to make sure that the business will suit them, and to also make sure they have the financial capacity to complete the sale. And that's really important, because you can get a fair way down the road in a sale and the buyer realizes the business is not for them. So this is really a critical step in the sales process. And then once we find a buyer, we negotiate the sales price, we negotiate all the terms and conditions, we manage the expression of interest, and we also take a deposit, which we'll hold in trust until settlement. And then once that happens, we manage the sale right to settlement and handover. And I would say this is probably where we spend 50% of our time at least. There are a lot of people involved. There are solicitors, there are accountants, there are finance brokers, banks, And all of these people, and landlords, and all of these people really can make a sale go sour. So managing everything on behalf of not only your vendor, but also the buyers, because the vendor may never have sold it, but most of our vendors have never sold a business before, and most of our buyers have never bought a business before. So it's really helping them through all the things that need to happen: contract to sale signing, lease assignment, dealing with landlords, dealing with real estate agents, electricity, all the services that need to be transferred, plant and equipment inspection. So all of those many stages that have to happen before settlement can occur. And that's really, in a nutshell, what it takes to sell a business, the stages.
It sounds very procedural, and as though really at the end is when the rubber hits the road.
Yeah, that's right. And so I would say, we always say that we do maybe 20% sales and 80% project management. So it is extremely procedural, and it has to be. There are things that has to happen before the next stage, and there are things that has to happen before you can actually complete the sale, for sure.
And that's why it's worth working with a business broker that has loads of experience, that's been through this process many times before, so that you can anticipate any problems and hopefully stop them before they happen.
Yes, absolutely. That's right, Ali. That is our role, because the vendors, our clients, they're busy running their business. They don't have time for this, and they've never done it before, and they don't know all the things that can delay or indeed cause a sale to fall over. And that really, in that final stage, that's our job, is keeping the ship straight and making sure that we complete the sale.
You talked in the first half of this interview about, the real meat to this, which is finding the sale price. How do you arrive at the sale price?
Yeah, that's a good question. So there's actually no formula for finding the right price. Obviously, profitability is a big input into determining what the sales price will be. But there are many other things we look at. So first we analyze the financials and look at basically what's the bottom line, how much can a new owner earn from this business. But then we have to look at all sorts of other things, such as, is the business in decline? Does it have a good history of profitability and revenue and increase in both of those? What's the vendor's role? So is it totally dependent on him? How easy will it be for a new owner to maintain revenues? What's the competition? So is it a very competitive market? Is it easy for people to make entry into the market? Is it an industry that's in decline? So we're looking across a broad spectrum of the business, and that determines the price, really, because we're looking at how saleable is it, and how much interest is there going to be? Is it a specialist business? Do you need special skills? We're looking at contracts. How easy are they to transfer to new owners? Do you need licenses? So it's not, many people think it's just, it's a multiple. It's not. There's many more things you have to look at to determine what the price is going to be. And at the end of the day, it's the market who will determine that. So they'll tell us what they're going to pay.
Do you find that, the vendor is at one end of the scale and the buyer is at another, and you need to help them meet in the middle?
I think you need to avoid that situation as much as you can.
Okay.
And that's setting expectations with the vendor up front, and also with the buyer. And, so if a buyer is looking at a business that's worth $1 million and he tells me he's a 500,000 budget, we're never going to meet in the middle there. And if a vendor wants $1 million and his business is worth 500,000, that's unrealistic, and we should never move forward. So I think making sure that your vendor has proper expectations avoids disappointment down the road.
We talked earlier a little bit about the marketing channels that you can use to sell a business. Is there some channels that are more effective than others?
And not really. So we very much, we're very, like most businesses, we do a lot of marketing online. So we use all the online portals, and everyone has their own preference. So they'll pick one or two portals and they'll stick with them. They'll put their searches in, they'll get their alerts and so forth. So really our job is to throw the net as wide as possible to make sure we're across all platforms, so that we target all the buyers out there, because they're pretty elusive, those buyers. And if there's someone out there looking for the business you have, you want to make sure that they can find it easily.
So it's about really trying to use as many channels as possible to reach your potential buyers.
Yes, that's right. And we we market our businesses on all the major websites.
What about legal documents? Obviously, marketing is super important, but it's so important as well to have your legal ducks in a row. What are some of the major documents that you need to prepare when you're selling a business?
Yeah, so there actually are only a couple of major documents that need to be prepared. The first is a contract of sale. In Victoria, that's prepared by the vendor solicitor. In other states, the broker can actually prepare the contracts, but not here. And we obviously the expression of interest document is very important in the preparation of that, because that helps us to instruct the solicitor in what the terms and conditions of the sale is. Then, of course, there's a lease assignment. So a sale can't take place unless the buyer has secured the lease. And then there's a section 52, and this is only applicable for business 450,000 and under. And it's signed by the accountant, and it outlines the assets and the profit and loss of the business for 3 years.
Now, it's very important to have someone on your team, a business broker who has experience. What is your role throughout the process? You talked about it being a project management role.
Yes, it is. Well, I guess in the beginning, when you're looking for a buyer and your marketing is very much a sales role. You need to be able to position the business to talk about its strengths and its weaknesses, and to be able to sell to a buyer. But once you actually find a buyer and you have an offer accepted, it's then that it becomes a project management. And you're very much trying to assist both parties through the process. Not just your client, although at the end of the day, you're working for your client, but you know that if you don't have a buyer, you don't have a sale. So helping them through the process also is really important. And so that's really, it's 20% selling, 80% project management.
How do you know if a buyer is really serious?
Very much about experience. And it's about the screening and asking the right questions. We put them through a few hoops, like signing confidentiality agreements before they can receive information, and that tends to weed them out. But by the questions and the answers that you get. And to be honest with you, people really don't have time to waste. You don't, they may make an inquiry about a business, and they're just, it's not a serious inquiry, and you're happy to give them some information because at some stage they may be in a position to buy a business, but after that you'll never hear from them. So we don't very often get real time wasters.
So you can easily sort of pick the tire kickers.
Yeah, it's really easy to pick them. They don't like follow up. They don't take your, and I always say a real interested buyer, I never have to chase them. They'll be chasing me. And that's how you've got the real deal. If you have to chase buyers, they're tire kickers.
So you've got the buyer, you've got the documents all prepared. What's the process when it comes to closing the sale?
Yeah, so closing the sale is all around that sales strategy that we have. And it's really understanding the steps that need to happen to get settlement. It's all about, has the buyer got finances in place? Tick. Have we got the lease assigned? Tick. Have we signed the contract of sale? Tick. Have we inspected plant and equipment? Tick. So it's really following the bouncing ball. And that's really how you close the sale. It's really that it's not simple. It can get very complicated and there's a lot of people, but it's all about process. And if you follow the process and if you've got the right buyer and you've done all your background work and you've done everything up front, and this is what I talk about preparation. If you've done all your preparation up front, getting that sale and closing that sale is so much easier.
It must feel really great when a sale finally settles.
It does. It's really gratifying. And I think when a vendor thanks you and appreciates your work and really understands how you earn your money, because very often, that's something they don't like is fees and charges, but they really do appreciate it and they understand the value in what you do. And if I have a happy vendor, a happy client, then I'm very happy. Yeah, and it is just feel like a good achievement because it can be a long process.
So, Anne, we're coming to the end of the podcast. What's your final piece of advice to a vendor to make sure they get a successful sale?
The first bit of advice I have is preparation. Don't think about selling your business when something happens and when you're forced to sell it. Your business should always be ready for sale. If you have a 5-year plan, even better. It's so important. It gives you the opportunity to fix all the things that prevent your business from selling. It makes you think about, you look at it from a buyer's perspective, because you're so involved in your business on a day-to-day basis, you really don't have time or the headspace to think about what will this look like to a buyer. Is my business actually sellable? At least planning a minimum of 1 year out, preferably 5 years, would be my advice.
That's excellent advice. And you certainly make it seem as though it's a realistic and achievable thing to do to sell a business. And I've learned a lot. So thank you very much, Anne. So that's all that we have time for on Buy That Business today. We love to hear from our audience. So please get in touch in the contact details below. And we'll see you next time for Buy That Business.